Oh, you really have to try this. All right, everybody, welcome back to another episode of the Advantage Survival Podcast. I'm your host, Les Baker, and this is episode number 32, Survival Food. Oh yeah, we're going to talk about all the stuff in my pantry today. I know I got you on the edge of your seats, don't I? All right, but before we do, we're going to hear from our sponsor today. It's nwhomesforsale.net. My incredible wife, Kelly, is an amazing realtor and global property specialist serving the fine people of the Pacific Northwest and around the globe. With her worldwide referral network of over 100,000 agents, she can help you find a great agent near you. Whether you're buying or selling your home or looking for that perfect homestead, Kelly will help you achieve your real estate goals. So check out our website at nwhomes4sale.net. And like always, I'll have a link in the show notes. All right, so let's get started with today's show. So, when I'm talking about survival food, I'm talking about the stuff that, I'm typically going to have at home. And we'll kind of drift into the wilderness side of things a little bit and talk about some of the stuff I carry in my backpack. But, basically, I have a few considerations when I'm looking at survival food. And, how much do I need would be one of them. How much survival food do you really need? I see some shows on TV and I follow some blogs and just know people over time, on the internet and through different relations that, they store food and they prep and they do the things that make sense to them when they're, doing the survival thing. And, oh man, I know some people that just have, it's almost like a warehouse full of food, and, that's good. I mean, they'll certainly have plenty of food for themselves and probably several of their neighbors, but, is that too much food? I don't know. I really don't know. I think a lot has to do with how you store your food, how you rotate your food, all of those kind of things. So you really have to take some things into consideration. One of the things that I look at when I'm doing, storing survival food is, are my kids going to like it? Is my wife going to like this food? Is it just going to be rock hard, nasty, tasteless food, or is it going to be really good? So those are some of the considerations, and certainly the cost. I mean, I don't know what it costs to have a giant warehouse full of food. I know a pallet of, high quality survival food is going to cost you $7,000s of dollars. I mean, it's just a lot of money to have that kind of food put away. Just think about some of the considerations when you're looking at, survival food and storing survival food. And what do you really need it for? I talk about a lot, in some of the podcasts about, storing your preps in different locations. And certainly if you have a bug out location, if that's a thing for you, I'm a kind of bug in guy, but if you have a bug out location, definitely you want to have some survival food there, and you want to protect it and make sure that, bugs and rodents and things aren't going to get into it. So we'll talk about a lot of different things today about how I prepare my survival food. Also, what does the best really mean? I mean, the best survival food. I don't really know what the best survival food is, but I can tell you there's, a couple of companies that are my go-to companies for survival food. And also I use them for my wilderness food preparations for backpacking. And, in search and rescue days, I certainly use this food, and it was a very tasty food and very filling food. And it had some pretty good nutritional value. So, what's best? I don't know. It's got to taste good, and it's got to have some pretty decent nutritional value. So those are the kinds of things that are important to me when I'm looking at survival food. Who do I use? Well, I use a couple of companies, like I mentioned. I use Oregon Freeze Dried. And Oregon Freeze Dry makes the Mountain House products. And, I know what you're saying. Oh, no, Mountain House, that's really expensive. Mountain House. There's so many other different types of companies out there that sell freeze-dried or dehydrated food. And, Mountain House is certainly one of them, but they're the top on my list. And I'll tell you, they're top on my list because, honestly, the food is good. And that's huge, and it's got some pretty good nutritional value as well. Now, some of the foods, may be a little more, saltier than other foods. And, certainly I watch my salt, but, you got to take things into consideration when you're in a survival situation or a situation that's going to call for you to depend on your food preparations. Food options also are a huge thing when I'm looking at survival food. I know the Mountain House, you get a variety of stuff. You get entrees, breakfast, sides, desserts. You can buy these foods in buckets or kits, however you want to purchase these things. And I buy my Mountain House in pouches, and depending on where the sale is, I mean, my local Costco will have a pretty good deal on a kit or a box of several different entrees and breakfasts and maybe some desserts. And when those things come on sale, I'm going to pick one or two of those things up just to add to my preps. I don't know how much survival food somebody really needs. I have a family of 5, including myself, and it's really important for me to, know that I have enough food that's going to last at least a couple of weeks if, I have a snowstorm or an ice storm or an earthquake or whatever, and, I can't get to my local grocery store. I want to have some food on hand. Now, Mountain House has also, the pouches. I'm sure everybody's seen them, and I'll have links in the show note, like always, that'll, take you to the website and show you what they have. But, when I'm backpacking or, I'm on my quad, I want to be a little more lightweight, I use the Mountain House Pro Packs, and they're smaller. They're shrink. I don't know how to explain. It's like they've been vacuum sealed, if you will. Maybe that's it. They're vacuum sealed pouches. And they pack a lot better when I put them in my backpack. They certainly don't take up as much room. Now the serving size is a little smaller than those, but hey, it works out pretty good. They also have family size pouches, and there's a ton of different varieties of food there. I mean, they've got beef stew and beef stroganoff. Man, I really love the breakfast skillet is really good. I can take that on a backpack trip with some tortillas. Man, I throw that in there, warm the tortillas up on my stove, and man, it's just good stuff. And having that good food out there is certainly really important to me. So let's talk a little bit about what I would normally keep for survival food, at my house, for example. I would take these pouches from Mountain House and I wouldn't leave them in the box that they came in. Or if I'm buying single packets, if I find them on sale at a store, there's a couple stores around where I live that actually sell them in a grocery store type setting, not just a sporting goods store, but either way, sporting good groceries. If I find a deal on some pouches, I'm going to pick some up. I'm always going to look at the expiration date or the date they were manufactured, just to get a feel for how long I can keep these things stored. But what I typically do with these pouches, and I do it with other survival food that I have, but mainly with the pouches and the food that I make myself, I'll put them in a 5-gallon bucket. And I buy a food grade bucket. I get those at my local big box store. They're reasonably cheap. And I also buy the Gamma lids. And I'll have a link in the show notes for Gamma lids if you don't know what they are. But basically, they're a ring and a lid. The ring you pound down on top of your 5-gallon bucket. It's got a nice gasket on it that has just an amazing seal. And I will take my pouches and I'll put them inside those buckets and I'll fill a bucket up. Usually I can get quite a few pouches in the bucket. And once I do that, I identify what's in it on the outside of the bucket, and I will typically, if there's any nutrition information on the box or the packaging that I got, I'll include that in the top of the bucket, and I'll put the Gamma lid on, which screws down tight. Here I have a great food storage that rodents can't get into, because rodents will chew through your Mountain House packet, I'll tell you that from experience, they'll get in there and they'll find that food and they'll chew it up. But the 5-gallon buckets will protect that. And the cool thing about the Gamma lids, if I want to get in and get something, I can open it up really easily without having to, peel the lid off and, not be able to reseal the bucket again. I can open that Gamma lid, pull out what I need, close it back up, and replace it when it's time to do so. So really cool features, just having a food grade bucket and a Gamma lid. It's pretty awesome. The other advantage of keeping the Mountain House food in a bucket, a 5-gallon bucket like that, is I can grab that bucket, throw it in the back of my truck, and if I'm going camping or whatever, I know I've got plenty of food that's going to last me for several days, and I know it's going to be protected. It can bounce around in the back of my truck. It's not going to get damaged, riding around back there. So it's pretty cool having that food in the buckets again. So now, the other consideration when you're looking at Mountain House food, you can actually buy the food that's in these pouches in number 10 cans. And I'm a huge fan of number 10 cans for food storage, for my family. Number 10 cans, I know what I'm getting. I've already tried, I think, just about every entree the Mountain House has and a few of the desserts and other things that they offer. I know I can get those things in the number 10 cans. And if I feel like it, I can, open up a can and use it for a side dish for a dinner that I'm making at home, just to mix things up a little bit and get my kids used to the taste of the Mountain House food. Most times they just don't know that it's was freeze dried or dehydrated, whatever. They don't know, and it's just good stuff. So definitely an advantage for me to buy the number 10 cans of the Mountain House food as well. So moving on, let's talk about another company that I'll tell you what, I'm just blown away by the stuff that they have offered for any type of food storage. And the company I use, and I use this, I won't say exclusively, but let's just say every month I make a purchase there, and I just slowly build my food stores up using these products. I'll tell you, I also use these products in everyday cooking. I'm going to tell you that it's Honeyville Foods, and you can find them at honeyville.com. Boy, oh boy, do they have some offerings to consider. I buy almost all of my food from Honeyville in the number 10 cans, and the cool thing is, and why I do monthly purchases there, is that, well, I get a deal. I mean, Honeyville, you sign up with them, get an account going, and they shoot me an email every single month. I don't think I've ever missed a month. They send me 20% off of this, or 10% or 15, whatever the deal is. I don't pay the retail price for the food, and they're more than happy to have some type of deal going every month. But some of the stuff they have, let's just take dried meats, for instance. And, these things are freeze-dried meats. And, you can buy them by the case of 6 number 10 cans. You can buy combos, freeze-dried meat combos. And some of their offerings is diced beef. They have ground beef, diced ham, dried sausages, dried white chicken, dried white turkey, to name a few. And man, oh man, you can add this stuff to meals. You can add this stuff to, a crock pot. You can really come up with some pretty creative things when you're, putting together your food stores. So I highly encourage you to check out Honeyville Food. They even have some smaller cans that you can buy if you just want to try something out. Let me just click on one of them here and see what it is. Yeah, you can buy a small can. I'm just looking at freeze-dried beef diced. Yeah, small can's like $14.99. A large can, on the website here is $47.79 the time I'm looking at this here. And, of course, a case is about $257.99. Now, again, you can get some deals or coupon codes from Honeyville, and you can get some pretty good discounts. They also have build-a-case discounts. So if you kind of want to mix and match different things, you can certainly do it, and you get a discount when you make your own case of food. I want to go back here, and I'm on their website again. I want to go back. They have dried fruits. They have dried vegetables. They have soil and TVP. Not a huge fan of it. I've tasted it. It's still pretty good. It's a lot cheaper when you're looking at, different types of chicken flavor or, ham, beef, those kinds of things. It's a lot cheaper per can. to buy the TVP. Again, there's just tons and tons of other products to look at on their site. They also have emergency meals, stuff that's already prepared, stuff that you can you can get. They have what do they have here? They have the Honeyville rotini and meat sauce. They've got fettuccine Alfredo, pasta and beef, Alfredo with chicken. So there's just a lot of different offerings for their food. And what's cool about the number 10 cans and the Honeyville food, you can use their emergency meal combos. Open a can and you can actually put that in a seal-a-meal type bag, put it in your backpack, and you've got food, right? Pretty good. It mixes up things a little bit in your wilderness side. The really, really cool thing with the Honeyville food is, and I got to tell you, hold on just a sec. I've got to grab a cookbook here. Hang on. It's the Gourmet Food Storage Handbook. Boy, I'll tell you what, if you've heard of meals in a jar, you've got to check this out. Now, one of the other ways I store food, I go to my grocery store and I buy food that I can put away myself. And I do a lot of dry canning. And dry canning is where I take a mason jar and I fill it full of, egg noodles. And I put an oxygen absorber in there. And then I pop a special adapter that goes to my seal-a-meal on the top of that lid. And I vacuum the air out of that jar and completely seal it off. Drop a ring on it and, put my date. I packed it, the original expiration date on the food, obviously identify what it is. I can put away a lot of food that way, and it lasts for years. Not opening anything in the, 5 years. I think I've got something that's maybe 5 years old that I'll probably be busting into here in the next couple of months just to just check the taste. But the look and everything of it right now, just looking through the glass of the mason jar, it just looks like the day I packed it. The other advantage of that, it also keeps critters out of it, right? I can pack that stuff away, and I've got a good way to store some food. And we'll talk about that a little more in a minute. But again, if you're thinking about meals in a jar, you can take all of the different, products, cheese, noodles, meats, all these things, and you can come up, and the cookbook has recipes for this. And there's also a cookbook that's specifically meals in a jar, but you can add these different products, tomato powder, cheese, meats, noodles, and you can put all these things in a mason jar, and it's a meal in a jar, right? So all you need to do is open it up, add hot water, wait a little bit, rehydrate that stuff, and boom, you've got an incredible meal. So it's not only helping out as far as you need a dinner in a hurry, you can grab one of those and make it pretty fast. You can serve, several people with it, depending on the size of your mason jar. But it really, gives you the advantage of storing food and putting food away, along with, the stuff that you have in your 5-gallon buckets as far as the Mountain House and other foods go. All right, so I want to talk about how I store some of my food. You're going to want to go with what the manufacturer says, right? You need a cool, dry place. You don't want the temperature to be too high. You don't want the temperature to be too low. You want a nice, consistent, good place to store your food. And, typically a garage isn't a place to store long-term food, but you got to do what you got to do. What I usually do with my number 10 cans is if you saw episode 20, I keep going back to that, but episode 20, my Lights Out kit, I have a tote that I buy at my local Costco. And I love the totes. They're pretty durable and they stack. They're easy to move around. When I load them up, they're not extremely heavy, depending on what I put in it. But, I can be pretty mobile with these. And one of the important things for me when I do food storage, especially the long-term food storage that I have, I pack the stuff in totes and in the 5-gallon buckets with gamma lids. And I do that to be mobile. If I really have to get out of here in a hurry, if there's a train that derailed down in the valley here and there's chlorine cloud heading my way and I got to get out, maybe I need to get out for a while, or depending on what the event is, if I want the option to be able to take some food with me to help me get through that situation, and being mobile with my stores is pretty important. So that said, when I get a case of food from Honeyville, I look at it as meals, and I package the number 10 cans in totes that would make several different kinds of meals for me if I'm not just buying the emergency meal combos from them. I like to mix that up, and I have kind of a, as best I can, I kind of balance that in those totes, and I can get a case, 6, 7, 8, I don't know, 10 or 12 cans I could probably get in a tote. I can't remember off the top of my head, but they're easily stored, and the totes add a little extra layer of protection, with the cans, keeping them away from rodents or dust or anything like that. I can know that my cans are going to be a little more protected in those totes. And, as I get a tote together, I keep a catalog of the food that I have in the totes. I number the totes. I do, my due diligence there. And as I need to rotate things out, I'll pull food out of a tote, rotate them around. It's easy to do. Again, that's the way I like to store my food. And I know everybody doesn't have room to do that. I don't have a lot of room here where I live, but I make do. And I will say I do store some of my food in my garage just because, well, it's easy. But I know in the totes it's going to be protected. So there's a consideration when you're storing the food. And again, the 5-gallon buckets. Now, I don't put number 10 cans in a 5-gallon bucket, but what I do on occasion is I'll take some of the mason jars and I just do a quick little, you can buy the strips or the rolls of bubble wrap, and I just do a quick wrap around each jar, and I can pack jars into the 5-gallon buckets. And, for me, I have to protect my food, and I see a lot of folks, they have beautiful food pantries, they have beautiful food storage pantries, and they have shelves from floor to ceiling, and they just have them loaded perfectly with the cans and a rotation system, and it's awesome. My hat's off to folks that can be that organized. But the problem that I have is, I live in a zone where there's earthquakes, and if I have a big earthquake, I don't want all my mason jars hitting the ground and breaking, and I certainly don't want shelves tipping over and damaging my number 10 can. So if I can give you a tip, find a way to screw those shelves, those shelf systems, either to a ceiling or to a wall. Be smart about how you stack that stuff so it doesn't fall over. The mason jars are a worry for me, but I save the box that I buy the mason jar in, and I can put those together. And depending on what it is, I might put some bubble wrap around them just for some extra padding. But what I typically do is just shrink wrap them. I wrap some shrink wrap around the cases. As long as I know what it is, I can store it away, and life is good. If there's an earthquake, maybe I lose 10% of it or whatever, but I know that for the most part it's going to be protected. There's some thoughts for food storage for you there as well. All right, so moving on, I want to talk about again how to store it. I mean, the totes we talked about, the 5-gallon buckets with gamma lids. Oh, I know what I want to say. So back to the dry canning thing. Another method of food storage that I like to use is the Mylar bags, oxygen absorbers, and a 5-gallon bucket with gamma lids. So what I do is, hit the grocery store, find things that are on sale that I eat normally, and I will put those, bring those home. I'll put them in a Mylar bag, whether it's, like I said earlier, egg noodles or, some type of red beans or, dehydrated peas, whatever it might be. I will put those in a Mylar bag, and I'll label the bag, and I'll drop an oxygen absorber in there. I think usually a 500cc oxygen absorber for a gallon bag. Don't quote me on that. I have to go back and look at my notes when I'm packing this stuff away to remember what I'm using, but that's a lot. And usually I'll put those Mylar bags, they slip right into my Seal-A-Meal, so I'm able to put the heat seal on them, and I smash most of the air out of them, but I let them sit on my counter for 24 hours, and you can just see the bags just suck tight around the food, and I know they're good. And as soon as I know they're good, I drop them in the 5-gallon buckets, and I just start putting food away like that. It works really well. I'll also, I mentioned Costco earlier, but I'll hit Costco and get the potatoes, the dried potatoes, and those usually come in packets. I'll take those packets, and I'll take some scissors, and I'll cut a little corner off of them to open the packet up a little bit. I'll drop them in a mason jar. I can usually fit 2 of them in a small mason jar, and I'll vacuum seal those, and I'm able to put tons of stuff away that way. Check out dry canning. There's a lot of videos online that you can take a look at, and you'll be able to see what makes sense and what doesn't. There's some, again, good quality stuff out there that folks are doing, and they're putting it up on on the internet for you to take a look at as far as dry canning goes. So Jeff, definitely check it out. The other thing I like to do too is, I have a garden. It's not a huge garden, but when it's garden season and harvest time, I dehydrate my own food in an Excalibur, and I'll put that away in the mason jars as well. So very handy to have, especially this time of year, because I've got peppers and I've got tomatoes, and tomatoes that I can grind into tomato powder myself for slow cooker, crock pot meals, all those kinds of things. It's just great to have. Onions, dehydrate onions. So just a lot of good stuff you can do that way. The other thing is if I get a bag of frozen vegetables for whatever reason, and I do store some organic grown frozen vegetables. If I don't use them all, I will take those vegetables and toss them in my dehydrator and dehydrate those up as well. And if I can find a deal on some, if I can buy, some good quality corn or whatever it is frozen, I'll buy 3, 4, 5, 6 bags of that stuff and dehydrate it myself. I mean, why not? It's a great deal. Put it in, and you're putting food away. So, just another thought there for survival food. I think the best method for food rotation, at least for me, is eat what you store what you eat. You can pretty much over a course of a month or two, just write down the things that you make for your family and the foods and the ingredients that you're using when you're making these meals, and you can pretty much figure out what you're eating, and you can buy those foods, and you'll discover with some research that you'll be able to store these foods rather easily and have them. And the great thing is you save money that way. You're able to buy stuff on sale, and when you need it, you're able to just pull it out of your pantry and use it. Using it is part of the food rotation. You got to know what you have and be able to rotate it around, especially canned goods. Craigslist, I think I talked about it in another episode, but I got a great deal on one of the Shelf Reliance racks for canned goods, and it's a huge one. I paid, I don't know, I think I paid $100 for it, but man, what a great thing. I dropped canned goods in there, and it's just self-rotating, and there's, again, plenty of tutorials online that you can see how to build your own if you're a woodworker, or you can weld or whatever. There's a lot of options for you there to come up with your own ideas for food rotation as far as canned goods go. So let's talk about some adjuncts for your food storage. And I keep these things in, again, a 5-gallon bucket with a gamma lid, very well labeled, but I like to keep a good quality protein powder in my preps, and I rotate that protein powder out. I use protein powder in, just fruit shakes, and, if I have a lot of kale left over I'm growing, or spinach or whatever, I throw all that stuff in a Vitamix, and man, I'm making some awesome shakes. It's good stuff, and I put protein powder in it. So protein's a big deal. Certainly in a survival situation, you want to have protein, so I definitely have some protein powder on hand. I also keep an array of multivitamins, vitamins, mineral supplements, those kinds of things. I wanna make sure I have some kind of supplements to help out the food storage and the survival food that I'm using. So make sure you don't forget that. Other things that you can put in there are spices, salt and pepper, obviously, but there's other spices that will store a long time if you prepare them right. You can drop oxygen absorbers in a food saver type bag and drop your spices in there, and you're able to store a lot of stuff. The other things, herbs, things like that, I like to dehydrate. So at the end of the grow season, I'll put those in a mason jar, and after I dehydrate them, drop an oxygen absorber in there, and they're good to go for quite a while. So just some thoughts there. And again, rotate the stuff out as you pull something out of a bucket, replace it, and just kind of keep rotating it that way. It won't take long to get that figured out, but it's really important that you know what you have. And like the Honeyville stuff I buy, I make sure I print out my invoice, and it has all the items on there and the date I purchased it, and I make sure I pack those in the totes too. So anyway, don't forget some things to add to your food, your survival food, to spice it up a little bit. All right, some final thoughts on survival food. And again, this is my opinion on it and some of the things that I do, but you really, really need to make sure, if you're using a lot of dehydrated type foods, or certainly freeze-dried foods, foods that you have to rehydrate, you need to make sure that you have plenty of water to do the job. It goes hand in hand with your water systems and how you're acquiring water, storing water, filtering water, whatever that system is for you. Make sure that you have tons of it, because if you're storing this kind of food for long term, you're going to need a lot of water, and you're going to need a water plan. It goes, again, hand in hand, and it makes no sense to have all of this food stored if you really don't have a plan on how to rehydrate it or cook it or whatever. So, just a heads up there, figure out what your system of survival is for water. Along the same lines as the totes and storing in buckets, I like to be somewhat mobile if I have to move the food quickly for whatever reason. I also keep in a tote a kind of a kitchen kit, and it's a kitchen kit that I would take in car camping situation. It's a tote. It's got some basic pots and pans. It's got some paper towels. It's got hand sanitizers, some plastic spoons and forks, paper plates, cups, all those kinds of things that you would need in a car camping situation or a picnic situation. And I kind of keep all those things in there, along with a percolating coffee pot and some coffee. Don't forget your coffee in your don't forget your coffee and your tea or whatever you're drinking. There's plenty of drink powders out there too. But I keep all that stuff in a tote, and I have a very detailed Excel spreadsheet. It's maybe it's a little crazy for me to be that detailed, and maybe I'll let you guys see it. We'll see. I'll think about putting it up on the website for you guys to download and have a look at. I'll kick that around. If there's some interest, let me know. I'll be happy to put it up there. But it's a great thing for when I'm taking the family camping, whether it's car camping or RV or whatever. It's just a huge list of all the things I need to do as far as what I need to take with me, but it also helps me on the things I need to do to prepare my house when I leave. So, all the little steps I need to take if I'm going to be gone for, 3 or 4 days or a week or whatever. It's just a good list to go through to make sure that things are covered while I'm gone. So I keep my food storage very mobile, and I make sure I mark the package with the buy date and the manufacturer's expiration date for whatever that's worth. I know that depending on what I'm buying and putting away, especially in the Mylar bags and the buckets, I know I can add 5 to 10 years to the shelf life of some of the things that I'm buying if I'm smart about it. You can do some research and figure out what you can do. If anybody's got somebody that I can interview that is an expert on food storage, I'd be happy to have them on and run through some of their ideas as well. Definitely, if I can make any recommendations as far as some good quality food products to buy and store, it would definitely be Honeyville. It would be Mountain House. And again, there's others out there. Wise Food, I think, is another. There are other companies out there that have some really good stuff. And there's some gourmet backpack meals out there. They're kind of pricey. There's some companies that make some really good stuff that might be for a wilderness situation or a get-home bag. Those are definitely some options for you to take a look at. So. All right, that's going to do it for today's show. You can check out all the links from today's show by going to AdvantageSurvival.com and clicking on episode number 32. Remember, if you have any comments or survival questions you'd like answered on the Advantage Survival podcast, send me an email at les@AdvantageSurvival.com. You can also comment by clicking the red Send a Voicemail tab on the right side of any Advantage Survival page. It's free. You can leave me a 90-second message there where I can, hopefully use it on a future show. And like always, thank you very much for downloading and listening to this show. And also, I need to let you know, you can find me on Stitcher now. I'm pretty happy about that. I don't know why I haven't been there before, but I'm on Stitcher now, so check it out. iTunes and Stitcher, don't forget to rate and review. It means a lot to me and the show. Also, don't forget, have the advantage of survival in all your adventures. Ask yourself, are you ready? Thanks for listening, and we'll see you on the next one.